Good day, guys. Dr. Raganath here, owner and clinic director of Buffalo Grove Physical Therapy. It's great to be here with you today at our facility, and thanks for joining us. Okay, so today on the program, we're going to talk about a condition called swimmer's shoulder, and then take you through some simple exercises to help address this condition, which if left untreated can indeed have a long-term impact on one's athletic career and even day-to-day function. But before we get started, just a few important precautionary measures. First, before beginning any exercise regime, it's important to consult with your physician to make sure that your body's up to the task. Secondly, when performing these or any exercises, it's important to progress in a slow and controlled manner so that you can derive maximal benefit from the exercise and minimize any chance of injury. Remember, if you experience pain with exercise, stop and consult your physician. Pain is not a go signal, but your body's way of saying that something's not right. And lastly, the exercises covered in today's presentation are simply suggestions and not meant to be a substitute for individualized evaluation, diagnosis, and treatment by a licensed healthcare provider. Great, so now that we've got that covered, let's get started. Okay guys, we're back talking about swimmer's shoulder, but before we delve into the exercises, just some important background points. The shoulder girdle is a complex multi-axial ball and socket articulation consisting of an array of muscular and ligamentous structures that when working together provide the requisite mobility and stability needed for daily leisure and sporting activities. And it's this careful, delicate mobility, stability, tug of war, if you will, that can be aptly illustrated in the repetitive overhead motions of not only swimming, but the tennis player trying to make that game-winning smash, the volleyball player going up for the spike, or the baseball pitcher trying to sizzle a 100-mile-an-hour fastball to close out a game. Okay, so as alluded to earlier, swimmer's shoulder can not only be seen in the swimmer, but other overhead athletes. However, it's the elite swimmer that's most prevalent to swimmer's shoulder simply because they average up to 9 miles per day, which estimates up to 4,000 revolutions per shoulder, just a single workout. And so it's this repetitive clockwise, counterclockwise motion, namely during the freestyle and backstrokes, that can over time perpetuate a vicious cycle of fatigue, pain, and ultimately soft tissue failure. Unlike a fall or motor vehicle accident, which is a macro-traumatic event, swimmer's shoulder is a progressive, degenerative, inflammatory condition of micro-traumatic nature, brought on by gradual onset involving cumulative wear and tear of the rotator cuff tendons, which is a very important set of muscles, also known as scapulohumeral muscles, which extend from the shoulder blade or the scapula, which is a triangular shaped bone that hugs the rib cage and attaches to two little bony prominences on the humerus known as the greater and lesser tuberosities. And together they work synchronously to optimize dynamic stability and ensure smooth synchronous overhead motion. So some predisposing factors to swimmer's shoulder include overuse, poor posture, suboptimal mobility, stability, balance between the shoulder and core musculature, faulty stroke mechanics, and resumption of long-distance workouts following extended training breaks. So in summary, swimmer's shoulder is a condition that is brought on by this repetitive, strenuous overhead activity, which, as we mentioned earlier, can not only give rise to pain, but diminish mobility and strength, which through time leads to dysfunctional movement patterns, poor stroke efficiency, and reduced speed, which for the competitive swimmer means the difference between winning and being on the second page of the result sheet. All right, guys, so we're back talking about swimmer's shoulder. So now that we've covered the basic background points and precautionary measures, let's get started with the exercises. So first up in our sequence are some stretching exercises. If you remember earlier in the presentation, we talked about this mobility-stability disconnect that exists with swimmer's shoulder. And oftentimes in our evaluation, we'll see the individual presenting with this kyphotic carriage, head tomahawked forward, rounded shoulders, which creates a lot of tightness through the pectoral girdle and conversely a lot of weakness in the muscles that feed into the shoulder blade. As you know, one of the causative factors of swimmer's shoulder is poor posture. So a simple exercise that we can do to address that would be what we call a roller angel stretch. So for that, we need a standard foam roll, which is about 36 inches long. You're going to grab our ball, take care to sit down at the edge of the foam roll with your knees and hips flexed. You're going to place the ball between your legs and squeeze the ball to activate the inner thigh muscles, or what we call the adductor muscles. From here, you can slowly use your arms to walk your way down on the foam roll so that your head and neck are firmly supported. From here, initially when you lay down, your back is going to want to arch or be thrown in what we call a lordotic position. That's going to create some injury to the low back, so we don't want that. So an easy fix for that is to simply do what we call a posterior pelvic tilt. Just as I'm doing that, it's going to turn on the abdominals. And then from here, you initially want to keep your arms and elbows straight and then bend them into a goalpost position. and just hold. And you're going to get a nice stretch through the pectoral region right here. Good hold time would be about 2 to 3 minutes. You want to make sure you're breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth to allow the muscles to release. And that's the roller angel stretch. Okay, so the next exercise in our stretching sequence is what we call a doorway stretch. For those that don't care to get on the ground or don't have access to a foam roll, this is a simpler option. So here, we're going to get to a doorway and stand a few inches away from the threshold, positioning our hands on opposite side of the doorway, and again in that goalpost position. And then from here, again, initially, when you're in this position, this is going to initially kind of want to throw your back into an arch position. So again, you want to tilt the pelvis backwards. That's going to turn on the gluteal muscles and the abdominal muscles. And then from here, positioning the hands on opposite side of the doorway, keeping the chin nice and tucked, you're just going to slowly, carefully lean forward just until the point where you feel a stretch in the top of the chest over here. And hold. Again, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Good hold time here would be about 30 seconds. You can repeat that 3 times. And that's the doorway stretch. Okay, so next up on our exercise program are core stabilization exercises. If you remember earlier in our presentation, some of the predisposing factors for swimmer shoulder is not only poor shoulder girdle strength, but poor core stabilization. And really, no exercise program or no rehabilitation program would be complete without dynamic core stability training. The core is an important set of muscles that serve as the powerhouse of the body, and when working synergistically, help corset the spine to ensure effective transfer of force from the trunk to the extremities to optimize whole body movement patterns, which is reflected not only in daily life, but sporting activities. So the first exercise that we can do, a very simple exercise, is what we call a plank. So from here, we're going to slowly come down on our hands and knees, making sure that our hands are directly underneath our shoulders and knees underneath our hips. From here, you're going to keep your fingers spread and grip the floor, and at the same time, screw the hands into the floor. So visualize turning your right hand clockwise and your left hand counterclockwise. That's going to turn on the lat muscles, which is another important muscle in the shoulder girdle and the core. From here, you're going to step both legs back so that your knees are straight and you're on the balls of your feet. You're going to pin your feet together. You're going to tuck in the chin, squeeze the buttock and brace the abdominals, and hold this position. So this is just a static isometric hold. Recommended hold time is 15 to 30 seconds. You can repeat this 3 times. And remember to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. And that's the plank exercise. Okay, so next up on our core stability sequence is what we call a plank crawl. Earlier we demonstrated the plank. This is a slightly intensified version. So for this exercise, you're going to need what's called a valve slide. And you want to do this ideally on a carpeted surface so you can slide easily on them. So here, you're going to place the valve slides down. And again, place your feet in the middle of the valve slides. And again, establishing that quadruped position first, so hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And then from here, you're going to, again, keep your fingers spread, screw the hands into the floor to turn on the lats, and then from here, you're going to come into a plank position. So once you've established this plank position with minimal to no movement, lateral movement through the trunk, you're just going to simply crawl. This is both a great core stability and shoulder girdle stability exercise. And that's the plank crawl. Okay, so next up on the program are exercises to help isolate the rotator cuff muscles, which if you remember earlier in our presentation are those important scapulohumeral muscles that help optimize dynamic shoulder stability. So this next exercise is what we call scaption. So just a point of reference over here, this would be considered what we call flexion in the sagittal plane, which splits the body into right and left halves. This would be called abduction, which is in the coronal plane. And about 30 degrees from the coronal plane, roughly about here, is what we call elevation in the scapular plane, or scaption. So, we want to grab a light set of dumbbells, no more than about 3 to 5 pounds. From here, you're going to keep your feet about hip width apart, here you're going to spread the toes and screw the feet into the floor to engage the gluteal muscles and also bracing the abdominals. You're going to turn the dumbbells out, keep your chest up and shoulder blades back, keep the chin tucked, and then from here, slowly, in a controlled fashion, raise the dumbbells up in that scapular plane until the arms are parallel with the floor. Pause briefly, and then slowly come down. And again, as you lift the dumbbells up, breathe out through your mouth, and when you lower them, inhale through the nose to maintain a good breathing match. Just like this. So recommended repetitions would be 10 to 15 reps, 2 to 3 sets. And that's dumbbell scaption. Okay, so another good exercise that we can do to help strengthen the rotator cuff or those scapulohumeral muscles that provide good dynamic stability is what we call a YTI lift, which can be done either on a stability ball or on a treatment plinth. I like the stability ball because it helps provide a little bit more core muscle engagement and allows us to do the exercise with both arms simultaneously. So, to do that, we're going to grab our stability ball and come down in a prone lying position with your feet a little bit wider than hip width, positioning the ball just above the pelvic crest. You're going to grab your light pair of dumbbells, probably no more than about 2 to 3 pounds, and you're going to keep your knees straight, squeeze your quadricep muscles, tense your gluteal muscles, and you want to keep your chin tucked. From here, you're going to slowly raise the dumbbells into a wide position, keeping your elbows straight. Pause. Come down slowly. Turn your palms to face forward. Raise them up and out to the side. Pause. Down slowly. And then come back in that wide position, squeezing the shoulder blades together, pausing, and back down slowly. So one more time. Forward, out to the side, and back. So each direction is considered one repetition. I'd recommend two sets of 10 to 15 repetitions, and that's the YTI lift. Okay guys, so that concludes our presentation on swimmer shoulder. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and found it helpful. Thanks again for joining us, and until next time, I wish you good health. Take good care.